Hey, what's up, you guys? Yes, welcome back to my podcast. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about conspiracy theories. Later on in the podcast, we'll be talking to Joe Irving from the BBC. Okay, so our first conspiracy theory is that some people believe that it was an inside job. So let's dive on into this conspiracy theory. So, by far the most widespread tale espoused by the 9/11 conspiracy theorists, often referred as truthers, is the United States government either helped the attackers succeed or orchestrated the entire thing themselves. Experts say part of the reason of the persistence of such conspiracy theories is a dissonance that results when people hear that the relatively small group of men using low-tech weapons caused such a cataclysmic carnage, says the BBC. Truthers claim that the attacks were staged to justify the subsequent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and a theory peddled by Andreas von Barlow, a former research minister in the German government. Is it just me, an internet user named David Rosszek wrote, or did anyone else recognise that it wasn't the airplane impacts that blew up the World Trade Center? I hope other people are actually catching this, but I haven't seen anyone say it yet. I guess I will. There's no doubt that the planes hit the building and did a lot of damage, but look at the footage. Those buildings were demolished, he continued. To demolish a building, you need To demolish a building, you don't need all that much explosives, but it needs to be placed in the correct positions. Someone has to have a lot of access to all of both towers and a lot of time to do this. This is pretty grim. The real dire part is, what were the planes for? So there we go. That's our first conspiracy theory. So to summarise, some people think that the American government planted explosives throughout the buildings to make the buildings come down, and basically the planes were just a distraction from that. Anyway, so our second conspiracy theory is basically a extension of the first one, so let's dive on into this one. So the BBC reports that investigations in the wake of the attack made it clear that the tower structures were weakened by the inferno from the planes and felled by the weight of collapsing floors. However, it adds even now some people refuse to believe this version of events. A widely believed theory is that the towers were brought down in a controlled manner using demolition explosives. The Daily Express points out that some truthers believe the towers would not have collapsed in a way they did if they were hit by aircraft. In footage of the incident, the two main towers can be seen collapsing on themselves, floor by floor, in a downward fashion, with the debris landing over a relatively small footprint. However, the National Institute of Standards and Technology concluded that a very large quantity of explosives would have been required to bring down the buildings in an operation that could not have been hidden from the public. So this conspiracy basically says that if there was explosives, they couldn't have been hidden throughout the building, and there would have to have been a lot, so somebody would have noticed.
So my name's Jo Irving, and I'm a BBC journalist with BBC Radio Devon, and I have been for 20 years now.
Okay, so my first question is, do you think conspiracy theories influence the media and the news?
I'd like to say that they don't influence the BBC's news agenda, because obviously conspiracy theories are all predominantly rumour and hearsay.
Yeah.
It's all about gossip, isn't it? Our job at the BBC is obviously to make sure any kind of rumour mongering is checked out. We've got to check our sources. We've got to make sure the facts are established, because that's what I'd like to say that we always report is the facts.
Yeah.
If we do get it wrong, then we've got to make amends. Invariably, things are double, triple and quadruple checked before things are said or go out on air. But everybody does make mistakes, and sometimes you're misled by something that you think is true, correct, whatever, and it turns out not to be. But then it won't just be the BBC that's been fooled, it will be other media outlets as well. But I'd like to think that the BBC didn't follow the conspiracy theorist without fully checking it out and debunking it.
Yeah, okay. So, do you think reporters consider that there might be something else happening behind the attack?
Oh, I'm sure they do, and that's why they should ask all the relevant questions, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get to the bottom of a story. So what you think might have happened is what you're trying to get out of the interviewee. So if you suspect, or perhaps you've heard a rumour, you're going to ask those questions. And that's all about good journalism. That's about making sure you have speculated as much as you possibly can, but the only way you're going to get the answers is by speaking to the relevant person who can hopefully answer them.
Okay. When you hear about terrorist attacks happening, do you think that there could be something else behind it?
It's really difficult, isn't it? We don't know. It's very hard to presume somebody did this or somebody did that. Again, it's all down to the facts and checking your facts, and also about cross-referencing with other media outlets. And also social media nowadays is a huge way that people speculate about stuff. Look at how many things go viral and then have been set-ups rather than actual things that have happened.
Yeah.
So it is very, very difficult. I'm sure there have been cases, but I'd like to think, as a BBC journalist, that we wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Do you believe in any conspiracy theories that you hear?
What, like nobody actually ever went on the moon and stuff like that? I kind of don't, actually. This is me personally. I'm pretty sure that somebody did go on the moon. I wasn't around at the time, but I'm hoping that as a journalist we do get to the truth, especially in the BBC, and get to the bottom of the story. So as for conspiracy theories, I mean, I do love a bit of gossip, but whether it's true or not, I sometimes take things with a pinch of salt. So I'd like to say that the stories we cover, there is certain gravitas, there's relevance, and there's truth and honesty behind them. But, you know, personally, I do love a bit of gossip too.
Okay. Do you think what happened on 9/11 was planned in any way?
I'm sure it was, by the people behind it.
Yeah.
But, you know, for something to happen so big and to affect so many people, wiping out many lives and causing so much destruction and so much fear in people for years afterwards, it must have been very well planned.
Yeah. Do you think that the American government had anything to do with these attacks?
Well, that's a conspiracy theory for a start, isn't it? I don't know. I can't say for sure whether they did or they didn't. I have to believe the reports and presume that they didn't. We might never know.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the excitement for the conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, and then do you think it was just the planes that brought down the towers?
Oh, because they did say that there possibly, or there's rumour
Yeah.
has it that there might have been some kind of explosive devices in the towers. That one, I'm going to have to leave to speculation. Who knows? What we saw with our own eyes was the planes. There could have been something hidden in the towers as well. We might never know. From going on what we saw, I have to believe that it was the planes,
Okay.
unless you tell me otherwise.
Well, there's nothing proving that it wasn't anything just more than the planes, but you never know.
I'll take your word for it then.
Okay. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Pleasure.
In conclusion, I think that some conspiracy theories are believable and make a lot of sense, but others don't seem like the people coming up with them know what the full situation is, and they are just making stuff up. But that's my opinion on conspiracy theories. What's yours? Ew. So, I'm David Young. Don't believe everything you see. See ya. Bye.